What's up, roadies? This is Sean Quackenbush.
This is Robert Compton from Compton Guitars.
What's happening, roadies? This is Richard Bennett, and you're listening to Roadie Free Radio.
What's up, roadies? My name is Larry Milburn, and this is Roadie Free Radio, your VIP pass to meet and greet the stars behind the scenes of the music and film business.
Merry Christmas, roadies! What is going on? Welcome to episode number 78, and a Merry Christmas to you guys. Man, I told you last week I was not going to be doing the show so that it would come out on Monday. I told you that. I said I got to take a day off, a couple days, spend it with the family, and have this thing come out on Tuesday. And then I did the interview with today's guest, Richard Bennett, and I thought, you know what? No, that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is I'm going to get off my ass, and I'm going to make sure this thing comes out on Monday because he deserves the one extra day to come out, and his story is so incredible. It is a Christmas story. So welcome to episode number 78. I am coming to you from a barn in Northwest Connecticut. We had a little freezing rain over the weekend. And, it was a little chilly, but I hope you guys are having a fabulous Christmas. By the time this comes out on Christmas, I will be ensconced in my Christmas. I'm doing this a day ahead of time for you. Anyway, I hope you guys are well. In the spirit of Christmas, I want to thank you for an incredible year. I want to thank you all for listening and tuning in week after week, supporting the show. If you've been on the show, I want to thank you for sharing your stories with me. You are what keeps me going week in and week out to get this thing done. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope your families are well. I hope it is nice for you to be spending time with them and to hug and love your loved ones. And I hope you are surviving your family time. All right. So listen, as I said, today's guest is Richard Bennett. He is the editor-in-chief of Load In International Magazine, which is a digital magazine, an online magazine that is basically, it's the visual version of this show, man, but he goes even deeper, and it's a great, great magazine. You've got to check it out if you have not seen it. There is a link in the show notes. So please go and check those out. Please check out Richard. Learn more about him after this hour. If you are interested in speaking with him or you have questions for him or you would like to contribute to Load In International, please send me an email if you can't find a way to get a hold of him, and I will pass it along for you. What an incredible story. All I'm going to tell you at this point is the man has mortgaged his home. He's cashed in his pension just so that he can follow his dream of creating this magazine for this community, which I fully applaud. The guy has set the bar quite high, and you can hear me giving him lots of kudos at the end of this episode. But his story is incredible, so I'm not even going to give you any more about his story. What I do also want to tell you about, I've knocked out a couple of incredible interviews this week, Richard included, and I've got a couple more coming up. So I want to tell you who is coming up. I'm going to post this in the next week so that you know what is coming up for January, because we have got some incredible, incredible stories. New Year's Day next week, we've got monitor engineer Lauren Crowley is going to be on the show. That was awesome. Hank Fury, systems tech, my buddy Hank down in Bushwick in Brooklyn at Rock and Roll Supplies. He and I had an awesome sit down a couple days ago. He's going to be on the show in a couple weeks. Joel Lonke, production and tour manager. Joel Lonke is going to be on the show. And just before, actually the week I will be at NAMM, a good buddy of mine, a new buddy of mine, also a podcaster, Mr. Liz Shaw from Nashville, whose show is Recording Studio Rockstars. He's going to be on the show. And then I'm pretty much wrapping up January, hopefully by airing either the video and audio or just the audio. We're still mapping it out, of the panel that I will be moderating at NAMM that I've told you about. Thursday, January 25th, the future of concert security. New Year's Day episode, I'm going to be announcing who those panelists are going to be. So you got to tune in New Year's Day when I interview Lauren Crowley to find out who the panelists are that I will be talking to at NAMM for the future of concert security. Also, folks, don't forget, we got a couple weeks, actually not a couple weeks, we got 1 week left, man. January 2nd, our big holiday sale comes to an end. 30% off merchandise in the store if you use the code TOURLIFE. That's 30% off when you use the code TOURLIFE. Runs until January 2nd. I'll probably do some other kind of sale some point in January, maybe a special NAMM sale or something like that. Also, if you're paying attention on Instagram, I just got a bunch of stickers. So if you would like a sticker, hit me up, Larry at roadiefreeradio.com. Go to the website. Do what you got to do, man. Anyway, as always, if you have questions for a guest, hit me up, let me know, and I will try to get them answered for you or pass your question along directly to past or future guest. All right? Listen, let's get on with this episode. You are not going to be disappointed with this man's story. Richard Bennett, humbled. I'm humbled by this guy, and like I said, he set the bar high for me. So without further ado, enjoy your Christmas week. Tune in next week. Lauren Crowley. We'll break it down. All right? So kick back. Pour yourself a little eggnog. I've got a little wine going right now. I'm not going to lie. The incense is burning. And I'm just cozy and comfy here in the studio. Super excited, man. This is an awesome time of year. It's my little boys, 2-year-olds, second Christmas. He can actually say Santa right now, and he can just barely get out Merry Christmas. It's adorable. And I got him to say roadie. I got him to say, what's happening, roadies? It was very cute today. Anyway, we're going to keep working on it. I love you guys. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas. Tons of love to you and your families. And let's kick back, a little eggnog, maybe a cookie, leftover food with Mr. Richard Bennett.
Hit it! Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie.
This is super cool, man. I've been wanting to get you on the show. I've been wanting to pick your brain about running a digital magazine, about running a magazine that is about the world that we both inhabit, and find out what you've got going on. So,
Okay.
How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks.
You're good.
Busy as everyone in this business, but yeah.
Absolutely. So did I understand your message back to me about your CV and whatnot correctly? That it sounds like you kind of got into the road a little later than most. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. Basically, what happened is, like most people in life, I fell into jobs, corporate. I ended up working for corporate. And when I turned 40, I had a life-changing experience. And that put me in a position where you reflect. And I decided that I would finally get the courage to follow my dream, which was to be a writer. So at the age of 40, I went back to university as a mature student over here in the UK and studied journalism. So completely changed my life. It was one of those dramatic turning points in my life. So I got into writing. Always wanted to be a writer, but just never had the courage, Larry. Never, like a lot of people, didn't have the brave attitude to follow my dream.
Yeah.
But the circumstances around me put me in a position where that was the only option. So I went after it, studied for 3 years.
Can we talk about what that circumstance was?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm got no issues with it. I went into rehab for alcohol and drugs.
Okay.
At the age of 40. I didn't think I had a problem. Everyone around me said I had, but I was having a brilliant time. It was great for me.
Yeah.
And when I went into recovery, within 6 months of coming out, my marriage had broken up. I'd lost my home. I'd lost my family. I lost my job. and was literally living in the streets. And
Wow.
yeah, all I had was basically what I was wearing, a rucksack with a Jack Kerouac book in it, and that was about it, really. So
What was the book?
and the book was the letters of Jack Kerouac, Volume 1, which I still have now. It's just I happen to have that with me, and I love Kerouac's work.
Yeah.
And I was just eating out the bins, sleeping rough, and nobody wanted to know, which was hard. But when you're in that position, it's easier to take risks because you've got nothing to lose.
Sure.
You've got nothing to lose. So gradually and slowly built my way back up. But that was 16 years ago. Looking back at it now, though, I consider myself probably one of the luckiest people alive for that to have happened to, because it gave me 2 lives in one lifetime. And it taught me a lot about people. It taught me a lot about that life is something that we do while we wait to die. Don't take it seriously, live for the day. I've continued to be clean for 16 years, and it was an amazing experience. I consider myself incredibly lucky to have had that gift, and I consider it a gift to have my life back again and do it the right way, hopefully.
Wow, what a remarkable story, but also what a wonderful way to look at it, that it as a gift.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, nobody would do it by choice, but I have a saying now that, I look in the mirror every morning. I've pleased the only person I need to please all day. That's it,
Yeah.
and I just go through life and do the best I can every day. But it took away fear. It took, ironically, being in a situation which was quite fearful, it actually took away fear. And you then realize that actually life is precious, and the only person that holds us back is ourselves. And sometimes it's easier to take that first step into the unknown, which is how I've lived ever since, really.
Yeah.
So I went to university and studied journalism. I was the oldest there in my class. There was 120 in our class. All of them were around about 20. I was about 43. 40. Yeah, 43. So it was great. It was like I had 130 children.
Of course.
So, and which was again cool, because they would take me out to the local clubs that teenagers would go to. They accepted me, so I went out and I was getting exposed to music that I wouldn't have heard.
Yep.
I was going out to experience things that teenagers were experiencing and being welcomed along to do those. So again, I was absorbing a lot of music. I've always been into music, really heavily into music, ever since I was a kid, really. It's always been a place for me to escape. I grew up in a place called Maidstone in Kent, in the UK. And then I kind of left home just before my 15th birthday. And I kind of been transient ever since then, around the UK, some of Europe. I've travelled Vietnam, Thailand, did the old backpacking stuff, this ever trying to find this Hindu stuff, trying to find yourself and all that lot. So I went through all of that.
But not with not going off to join the music circus.
No, I was a music fan, an absolute music fan. And the music side came about my last year of university. One of the pieces of work we had to submit was a celebrity interview. And I had just read Ronnie Wood's autobiography, Ronnie Wood from the Stones.
Sure.
And I thought, that would be pretty cool if I could interview him. So I went after him through his people, and it took months to get him. But eventually I managed to sit down with Ronnie and have a chat. And I submitted it as a piece of work. And my tutor at the time suggested I sell it. And I managed to sell it to a newspaper. And they published it. So that was my very first piece. As I say, I decided I wanted to pursue to be a writer, but the writing industry, as I'm sure you know, is like the film and every other industry, is dying. So it's very difficult to get out there.
Yeah.
And soon after, we have a football stadium down here, and bands occasionally play here. So this was about 2008, I think it was. about 2008.
Right when the
Bon Jovi.
right when the whole world's collapsing. By the way.
Yeah. Well, my world was collapsing, so they just followed me. I was the trendsetter, you see. So basically, they followed me. Yeah, I create the trends. So basically, what happened was that Bon Jovi were coming to play in Southampton, which is a big deal for it. Southampton's known. Our claim to fame is that a ship that sank left our port. That's basically, that's what we celebrate, the fact that a ship sank. So them coming here was big, and I had seen Bon Jovi over the years. I've done loads of concerts as a rock fan, and I wanted to go and see them again, but they were £65 a ticket, so I don't know, about $110 a ticket. This was back in 2008, and I couldn't afford that. I was an out of work writer. Yeah. So I came up with this idea that I'd interview them and try and sell it to the papers, the local papers that they were playing, Birmingham, Manchester, Southampton, on that tour. But knowing that I was a nobody and that the band wouldn't give me the time of day, I came up with this idea of doing a piece on the road crew, what goes in to make the show. Okay, so I contacted the PR people. They got in touch with Bon Jovi's management. Cut a long story short, they came back and said, yeah, that's a good idea. The crew have been together a long time. We'd like to give them some airtime, if you like. So they flew me out to Munich to see the second show on the European leg, and I spent a couple of days out there with the crew and did the piece, sold it to 7 newspapers in the UK. But more importantly, made some lifelong friends on that tour. And then when they came to play Southampton, I went down and saw them. Obviously, I got passed up and was in. So from trying to avoid paying £65 for a ticket, I ended up getting a career, really.
This is unbelievable. I'm a little quiet right now because I'm still floored about the homeless rehab part and then going to school. So just let's back up for 1 second. So from being homeless to sitting down with Ronnie Wood, how long was that?
About 3 years.
Wow.
About 3 years.
That's incredible.
And the funny thing is, you say that when I went to Munich, which was in 2008, so that was probably that was 8 years into recovery. When I went out to Munich to do Bon Jovi, they played the Olympic Stadium in Munich, which is 77,000 people. And I went up on stage just before the band came out to take some photographs of the crowd. And I'm standing up there, and I'm looking out across 77,000 people, and I thought to myself, how the hell did I end up here? How the hell did I end up here? But yeah, so I got to really well with people like Mike Rue, Mike Devlin, Mike Allison, who were all experienced old school guys on that tour. And we just seemed to all hit it off. And then when they came over here, I went to spend some time with them. And then ever since, when they come out to Europe, I always get a call and I pop over wherever I can and see them and meet up with the guys. But more importantly, they went off to other tours. So Mike Allison went off. Mike Allison's a sound guy, monitor guy, and he went off to Beyonce. So I got in to cover Beyonce, another behind the scenes of Beyonce, which I sold to a magazine called TPI in the UK, Total Production International. I sold it to them, and kind of really not looked back from that moment. I freelanced for TPI. I freelanced for Light Sound International. I've written for guitar magazines and bass magazines as well. Lifestyle magazines. I did a piece on Tico Torres being a dad for a parenting magazine. So I was kind of like just writing because that's what I love to do. Sure. So I got in round about that time, 2008, I got into writing about the trade, but not knowing it. I didn't know the trade. I wasn't a roadie. I was a music fan, definitely, but I had never been on tour. But I just felt that these people that I'd spent time with on the Jovi tour were great people, and they worked hard. They were doing 21 hours, and it was tough. You know, and it was like the modern day equivalent of running away and joining the circus.
Sure.
And, who doesn't want to join a circus?
Right, exactly. Yeah, we talk about that on the show all the time. I was going to say, what was it about those people in the world? Obviously, they work hard. Their stories are amazing. I know why I'm drawn to it. But for you, what was it? Was it the cool technical stuff? Was it their stories?
So, yeah, in answer to your question, it's simple. Misfits. They were misfits. And, I left home when I was 15, and I've been kind of trancing ever since. And I've always tried to, I've always said that I've spent my whole life looking for the answer, but I don't know what the question is.
Right.
And I've always tried to find somewhere I fit. And then I realized later on in life that actually I don't fit. I am a unique character. Like everyone, I'm a unique individual. And again, the rehab situation made me realize that. And to me, it's the modern day equivalent of running away and joining a circus. And I just felt a certain camaraderie. I felt home. The first time when I went backstage with Jovi and spent the day with the guys, it just felt natural. Yeah. It felt home.
Yeah.
Can't explain it, but it felt like I didn't have to. First of all, I didn't have to be somebody I wasn't, which I'm not anyway. But it was just, I don't know, it felt like I had come home.
Yep.
And, I remember my wife saying to me once, you're never happy these days. You're always grumpy. Where are you ever happy? And a few days later, I actually went out and covered a Springsteen show. And I remember phoning her from backstage saying, look, I love you and Nico, my son, more than anything in the world. But I've now got an answer to your question. This is where I'm happy. These people, this environment, this world. And I think it's because it's the camaraderie, the fact it's misfits. Nobody goes into the job centre and picks up a card that says work 21 hours, be away from your family for 10 months and get crap money and go, oh, excellent, that's exactly what I've been looking for.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a certain person, and I don't mean to be arrogant because it's not. I think it's a home for the lost, the confused, and the loyal.
Yep.
So that's what it was for me.
Interesting. Very interesting. And now that you've been so tell me about then starting Load-In from that point.
Well, after I'd written for TPI, I then started writing for LSI and Mobile Production and started building up my contacts. For me, this business is not about who you know, it's about who knows you. And so other guys were going on to other tours. They were getting me into the tours. And I'd been writing for the trade magazine for a number of years. Mobile Production Pro, that was run by Larry out of Nashville, who do Tourlink. I was their European guy for about a year. And I was still freelancing with others. But I got to the point where, and this is totally my own view, but it got to the point where I felt that the other magazines were more interested in the vendors, getting the advertising, playing to the vendors, and not addressing the issues that we were seeing out there. Because the industry, as you know, has changed a lot in the last 5 or 6 years.
Yep.
There's more back-to-backs. Per diems are being gone. The travel's harder. They're putting more shows on. Bands used to tour to promote albums. They don't do that now. They tour to make money.
Yep.
And the pressures on the crews, are different now. You're getting video crews there for the obligatory video of the tour. You're getting the VIP packages coming in. You're getting all of that to increase the bottom line. And I understand basic economics, but I think there comes a time when your bread and butter people who have been there in loyalty from day one, then you've got to treat them right.
Yep.
And I'm not saying everybody doesn't, but I'm saying the industry has become a business now.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and I think I felt that the other magazines were not paying due respect actually to the boys and girls.
Yep.
There's a lot of issues out there.
Yep.
There's the old school, new school, which I have a big issue about personally. There's the mental health issues, the health, the insurance issues. And I don't think that the other magazines were giving the roadies a voice. Mm-hmm. So the idea behind Load-In was to basically be their magazine, to be the roadies magazine, to give the roadies a voice. to address these issues that they can't publicly because it's their job.
Sure.
If they're going to slag off something, they could lose their job. Who am I going to fire? Me? So, and from day one, it was about giving them a voice, being for them.
Yep.
So I also felt that print was dead. Print's a dying art. And because I decided to start it on my own, the costs of running a print operation were too expensive. Mm-hmm. And another thing, I'd been in many production offices on tours where you see LSI, you see LSA, they're in the cellophane on somebody's desk. At loadout, they're still in the cellophane, but they're in the bin.
Right.
People weren't reading them.
Yeah.
People weren't reading them. So I came up with this idea of doing a digital magazine. And my target audience was, you got on the bus after loadout at 2:00 in the morning, you're driving off, you're still a bit wired, you're listening to some music, you need to chill out before you get some sleep, and you want something light to read. So my target audience is between 2 and 4 on a tour bus somewhere in the world, just looking through some production stuff, some light-hearted stuff, and checking out where their mates are. That was my target. And we seem to have found a niche there.
Absolutely.
But we're literally a one-man operation. I have people who write for me, most of them free. We don't make any money out of it. The advertisers have been very slow to come on board because they're very still in print. They've kind of got this mentality about print. But the digital format, my magazine or Loading can be with you 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year. If you've got your phone in your back pocket or an iPad, you can reach us.
Yep. And
we can reach you.
Yep.
And the other thing is the industry has become very technology. One thing about the guys and girls out there on the road is every single one of them at the top of their game.
Oh, yeah.
Top of their game.
Yep.
And therefore, they need something that equals that. And now, so technology-wise, with the app, you can watch videos in the page. You can, advertisers, you can touch the advert. It takes you straight to wherever they want you to go. So it's technology. It's technology for a technology-driven business. So I started up on my own, wrote most of the stuff, designed it. Through my contacts, I was very fortunate that we've always covered big bands from day one. Our first one was Queen. Mm-hmm. Then we did Usher, we did Paul McCartney, and we continue. We've been intermittent because it's privately owned, and I funded it myself.
Yeah. And
unfortunately, there are times when we have been quiet. I mean, we haven't been out for a while now. We're coming back later on this month. But, we want to be consistent. It's just, unfortunately, I fund it myself. And I fund it myself because I'm passionate about the business.
Sure.
I love the business. I love the people in the business. And I think, they need a voice. They may not agree, but I think they do. Yeah. The other thing with the magazine is I'm very keen that we put history of touring in there.
Oh, yeah.
So we go back and look at old productions. It's interesting. I had Bill Hanley on recently. We did a piece with Bill.
Yep.
And we've gone back and we talked to the production manager for the Grateful Dead at the Pyramids in 78. We did that. We've gone back and looked at the Who. It's very important to me that we do that because the new school needs to know that they're coming into a industry that has a legacy.
Absolutely.
They need to respect what they're coming in to. They can't come out of Fair Sale or whatever, Full Sail, after 3 years and think they can mix U2.
Yeah.
This is just my view.
Yeah.
They can't mix U2. They need to come in and respect and understand that they're entering a legacy and a history. They come out, they want to go on tour, they lower the bar. That affects money for everybody else.
Yep.
Equally, the old school need to remember that when they started, they were taken under a wing by somebody. And they need to look at this new group and see if there's somebody there that's got the potential, because not everyone will. But I think the old school and new school need to work together. I think the old school definitely need to be aware that they are coming into an industry that was hard built and hard earned and will continue to go on. And they've got to give it respect.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've got to respect that they're coming into a unique world.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with all of that, man. And it's so nice to hear your story about starting this and the effect that it had on you and has had on you, because in much the same way, this podcast, has done the same thing for me. I've been in the industry, and then I was a musician and whatnot for a long time, and then a filmmaker for a long time, and that's how I make, my bread and butter. But this part of it, and I've always been fascinated with the inner workings and all the behind the scenes, even on film sets and whatnot, more so than the celebrity aspect of it and the people in front of the camera, but all the the grips and the lighting people and monitors and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, it's fascinating.
It's fascinating, and I worked in a lot of restaurants to support myself, and I feel the same thing about the restaurant world, chefs and cooks and line people and whatnot, as I do about music crews, basically, because it's the same thing. It's you're bandits, you're pirates out there, basically, sort of doing your thing and surviving, and so it's very nice to hear your story and know that someone else has been as affected as I have by all this stuff. Tell me a little bit, when you first went out with Bon Jovi those first couple of times, or those first couple of days, what were you doing backstage?
Well, basically, I was out there to cover it for writing. So they set up me to interview the back tech, the back line techs, and people like that. So I was just allowed free range. I was going around photographing the stage, full access, talking to the guys and the girls. Yeah. It's funny because Bill Centimore, who's a keyboard tech, he was keyboard tech there, and I still keep in touch with him today. And he always recounts the story that he was told that I had to interview him, and he thought, oh God, another guy that I've got to talk about my rig and about this. And the first question I asked Bill was, what is the psychological, emotional relationship between you and David? Mm-hmm. Do you know what he wants before he wants it? And Bill said that absolutely knocked him for six. He'd never been asked that question before. Yeah. He thought he was going to have to talk about the rig. Yeah. So he kind of answered that question, and he says, that it was always different. And we tried to be different. I mean, when we go out and interview them, and again with the other magazines, and I must stress it's my view, if you go out and somebody's using an SD12, right, or an SD7 or an SD5, everybody who's going to read the magazine knows what one of those is. They don't need another photograph of it, and they don't need to know what it does. Yeah. In my opinion. Yeah. What they need to know is what the front of house engineer, what's in his head, and how he gets that from his head through his fingers to the desk. How does he make that desk work for him and his artist? Yeah. For my view, it's a service industry. And, for instance, if you're at the O2 over here and it's got 25,000 capacity and you're sold out, maybe more for the legacy artists like Neil Diamond, Black Sabbath, your punters who have paid to go there, you've got 25,000 people that have a song or a lyric in a song that means something to them personally. So as a sound engineer or as a production team, you are trying to give that person that one memory, but you're trying to do it 25,000 individual times. Right. So you are making a service industry for those people. Yep. So that's not the equipment that does. That's your experience as a sound engineer, experience as a lighting director. That's your imagination. That's your creativity that you are using to help somebody relive an experience. Yeah. And that is down to the individual. Why are you using what you're using? How are you using it? Have you got outboards? Are you using analog? Why are you using analog? Another question, we ask questions like, what was the first album you ever bought with your own money? What was the first show you ever went to? Who are your mentors? It's not about the gear, it's about the person that's operating the gear. Yep. So for me, it's always really important that you get that across. We get across the person, and why they do what they do and how they do what they do. Because we can all stand in front of an SD7, but we'll all do it different. Right. But why do we do it different? Where is our influences from? Why do we get off the bus every morning to keep doing this job? Yeah. What have been some surprises that you've found along the way in doing this as you've gotten to meet people? I mean, you might have had some conceptions about this world coming into it. What surprised you? How long have you been doing the magazine now? We've been doing the magazine on and off for about 2 years now, but as I say, I've been writing for the industry for about 9 years now.
Yeah. So you've been in and around it for a long time.
Yeah, I've done a lot of shows. I love the shows. I've done a lot of shows. Things that surprised me, basically. Okay, when we ask American crews their first album that they bought, it's either Kiss Alive 2 or Rush 2112. So you obviously didn't have a lot of sales out there for the others. That's absolutely true. When you ask them, it's usually 2112 or Kiss Alive 2 tends to come up a lot.
Yep.
I've noticed that these people, the industry is really loyal, really loyal, and that they do an amazing job. That they do it's a thankless task, really, which again is why I wanted to start the magazine. And I think that I'd sooner stand shoulder to shoulder with a bunch of roadies than with anyone else. I've learned a lot about the industry. I've learned a lot about the technical side of it because my only technical ability when I started was the ability to Google an awful lot. But now, I through the industry in the last few years, there's a tour director who has taken me under his wing, and I've done a lot of work experience for him on tours. When it comes to Europe, I've gone up and helped him out free of charge, just helped out, production assistant. Earlier this year, he gave me my first paid gig. I was an assistant tour manager on a one-off show he was doing in London, so I went and worked for him. Which is something I'd like to do more of. But, to me, that was a big thing that obviously he had seen something in me, because this industry is all about people seeing something in somebody and nurturing them and passing on. And that's another great thing. You talk to people like Big Mick, you talk to people, out there, Rob Koenig and all the legends. They're more than happy to share the information with you. They're not protective about what they do.
Right.
Which means that the industry will continue. The industry will move on. I've never known. I say to people, this is the only industry I've ever been in where there are thousands of rules and not one of the buggers are written down.
Yeah, exactly.
But what else would we do? I love it. I'd like to do it more on the road work. I'm very grateful that I've been allowed into this industry. And I have been allowed into it. I'm welcomed in. I try to be as open and honest as I can. When we do a piece, we always send it to the individuals for them to check before it gets published. Nothing gets published till the people I've interviewed have signed it off and said, yeah, they're happy with it. They get to choose the photos that go in for them. We have a number of people who write for us. Kerry Keys has written for us, who's Pearl Jam's monitors.
Yep, she's been on the show.
Well, hopefully they're over here actually next year, so I'm hoping to catch up with her on that. And I've got to talk to her about coming back into the magazine. Randall Gillespie writes for us, who's an LD. Scott Warner writes for us. We have a number of people in the industry who write for us. And to me, that's important. I want more people from the industry to either send photos in or put feature ideas in. And that's really important to me. I want more people in the industry to use the magazine to submit their own stuff, their own work, their own ideas.
Sure. Well, you're trying to build a community around this existing community in much the same way I am.
Yeah,
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree wholeheartedly, man. I think it's the more that this community can share itself with each other. That's people ask me outside of what we do. They say, tell me about your podcast. Why do you do this? What's the point, sort of a thing. And I say, well, look. If you're a civilian, right, and you're not in the industry, but you're a music fan, and let's say you like Rush or whoever it is, I want you to listen to some of the people who are on my show that may work for Rush, so that when you go to the show, you have a deeper understanding of the music that you love. And the experience that they're trying to bring you. And maybe on the way out, you'll look at the front of house guy or the monitor guy or guitar tech, and instead of yelling some stupid ass thing at them, like give me a pick or a drumstick or, hey man, that sounded like shit tonight, maybe you'll say, hey man, that was great. Thank you so much. Right? And then conversely, if you're in the industry and you're part of this community and you listen to my show, I think much like reading, Load-In magazine, you'll learn something from your peers. And like you said, I mean, your target audience thing was great because at 3 a.m. when you're driving on some bus somewhere and you read about your buddy or you're listening to this show about someone or maybe someone that mentored you years ago, it's a way for you to, sort of touch base with them intergalactically.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, the amount of people that I go out on the road and they'll say, oh, I saw your last issue and it had so-and-so in it. I haven't seen him in years. Have you got his contact details?
Yeah.
And because we're a digital magazine, I have the ability to see how many people read each page and how long they stay on each page of the magazine. And the pages with the crew photographs are the biggest pages that are viewed.
I bet.
People want to know where their buddies are. People want to know what they're going on, And when we take the crew photographs on a show, the first thing we do when we get back is we send individually to everyone's email the photographs of their team.
Oh, that's so cool.
Within 24 hours. That's one golden rule I have. Within 24 hours, all crew photographs are sent to the crew individually.
Wow.
So they can have that, and because they've allowed me into their house. They've allowed me to mix with them and be with them. Yeah. And the least I can do is give that back.
Let me tell you something. Richard, let me just stop you for a second. Already, like a few months ago when I started flipping through Load-In magazine, I was like, holy shit, this is like, you set the bar for a guy like me who started this show a little over a year ago, right? Pretty high.
I don't think so, but thank you.
No, absolutely. Just now, everything you're saying about the turnaround of 24, all this stuff, I'm like, holy shit, man, I got to work fucking twice as hard as I'm already working.
No, you haven't.
Let me ask you this, because I found this. I want to dig under the hood a little bit of producing a digital magazine.
Yeah, no problem.
Because, I like to also share the experience of being a podcaster with people and what it's like, right? I mean, you kind of jump in, you're like, hey, this is going to be a fun idea. Let's grab a mic and start a show, right? Or, hey, this will be awesome. I'll start a magazine. It'll come out, right? It'll come out once a month. And then there's 29 days where you're tearing your hair out going, holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Or for me, it's every week. And I liken it recently to holding the tail of a rabid dog and just hanging on for dear life, because as you're trying to find interviewees, you're trying to find, subject, you're trying to coordinate going on the road. Then you've got to put it all together. You've got to put the show out or put the magazine out. So tell me a little bit about that process and how it's been for you.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. When I started this, I thought, I'll just start a magazine. And I'd never done a magazine in my life before. What I actually did was bought a ticket on the Titanic without realizing it. And so we started the magazine. Basically, I put the magazine together. We have people who write for us, and I have people who kindly photograph for me. There's a guy in the States called Todd Kaplan, best live photographer I've ever seen. And he does a lot of stuff for me. And he does it free because he believes in the magazine the same as we do. And I've been very fortunate. A lot of people who have come on board for the magazine do it because of the passion of the business. They do it because they love the business, and it doesn't make any money. It is a at the moment it doesn't. It's a passion. So I decided to start it, and I looked into doing the digital, and basically I just Googled and did it all on my own. I mean, the beauty of it is I could actually produce the magazine and publish it on my iPhone if I needed to.
Wow.
And that's the beauty of technology.
Yeah.
And again, it comes back to the point I said to you earlier. This industry is technology driven. Everybody's at the top of their game. They're not going to give anyone the time of day who isn't at the top of their game.
Yep.
I'm not a front of house guy. I'm not an LD. I'd like to think I'm somebody that is speaking for the others or giving the others a chance. And therefore, the platform I give them has to be to the level of the technology that they work with. Which is why we went out. So basically, I just started doing the interviews, taking the photographs, transcribing the interviews, laying them out, laying the photographs out, putting a digital magazine together through InDesign program. Then looked at building an app, so we built an app. I mean, there's been a lot of pitfalls, Larry, as I'm sure there has been with you. There has been a lot of learning curves and learning circles, really. And it hasn't gone smoothly. I'm not going to lie, it hasn't gone smoothly. I brought more professional people in throughout the magazine's life, and they've all gone because it turned out they didn't have the same passion or the same vision as me. So I've learned a lot of life lessons. I've been burned several times. The magazine hasn't been out for a while. It is coming back, and hopefully it'll be consistent. Yeah. So through all of that, and I'm not going to lie to you, there have been times where I've thought, oh, this isn't worth it. I can't be bothered to do this anymore. This is just too big a hill to climb. Yeah. And every time I've made that decision, I suddenly get a massive spike in followers on Facebook, or I suddenly get crews calling me to say, why don't you come and cover a show? Yeah. And that's happened a number of times. The magazine won't die. It's got a life of its own. Yeah. It won't die. Yeah. So I've kind of given up now and said, okay, if you're not going to die, I'll come along for the ride. Yeah. And we are coming back out. We hopefully to come back out regularly. We've got a load of shows we've just done that are coming out. We've got shows coming up. Our Facebook followers are 6,400. Mm-hmm. Our nearest competitor in the UK is 1,500 likes behind us, and they've been out 25 years. Wow. Our circulation with the app, which is not available at the moment, but when it was, our circulation is 4,700 readers in over 93 countries.
That's fantastic. In a little over 2 years?
Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah. And I mean, you flip through the magazine, you've got some pretty awesome advertisers in there. So that must be covering some costs.
No.
Barely.
I give them away free.
Do you really?
And I'll tell you why I give them away free. Because I want the magazine to hold up its own. I want it to look professional. Yeah. And the other thing is, I have a strict rule on advertising, which is where we fell out with some people who had come on board and have now left. I will never, we usually come out at about 100 pages. No more than 18 pages of any issue will go to advertising. I don't want any more advertising than that. Yeah. Because I will not sacrifice editorial for the crew for a supplier. It's not what the magazine's about. It's not about the advertising. It's not about the digicos and stuff like that. We do preview pieces of equipment. Sure. But I would crew trump advertising any day. If I could put a magazine out there and people not think it was just a fan magazine, if it didn't have any adverts, then I'd do that. I wouldn't put adverts in there. But because it's not about the advertising. It's about the boys and the girls. Sure. And again, this is where I think the other trade magazines concentrate more on it, where you'll get, every page there's an advert. These people don't need to advertise. If you're a production manager or a tour manager, you know your guys, you know who you're going to go to.
Right, exactly.
But I would never sacrifice crew editorial over advertising.
It's funny.
Most of the adverts are free.
Wow, that's incredible, man. Well, kudos to you for keeping this thing alive.
Oh yeah. My wife goes a bit nuts sometimes.
I'm sure, man. You mentioned something earlier in talking to crew members and in talking to the gentleman from, I think it was from Bon Jovi, about how you threw him a question that wasn't gear related, and that's. I don't know a lot about gear, even though I am a musician and consider myself a decent musician. I don't know a lot about gear. I sure as shit. I mean, I've got a little Behringer mixer here in the office. That's about the extent of what I can do, And yet you're right. I stand on stage, at a Tedeschi truck show with Bobby Tees, and I'm looking at his, SSL board, whatever it is, and I'm like, oh my God. Or even Robert Scoville's Avid rig, and you're like, what is this thing? I couldn't if I started to ask questions that were about gear, that got really technical, I think people would see right through me, and that's why I don't. Because I'm more interested in the person's story and how they got there. How did that guy or gal, when you're at a concert and you're a concert goer and you look out on stage and this person comes out of the fucking shadows, with a guitar change or whatever it is, how did they get there? And how are they able to wake up the next morning drive 3,000 more miles and do it again.
Yeah.
And nobody knows who they are.
No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, you know, for me, I am learning the stuff, but more importantly, they're allowing me to learn it.
Yeah.
You know, I will research an awful lot, you know, and through doing this, the two things have happened through doing this magazine. One, I'm becoming more technical.
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot more about various desks, because when someone says to me, "Oh, I'm doing this with it," I want to know what they mean.
Sure.
So I will read. And the beauty of it is when I do the interviews, they'll talk to me as though I know what they're talking about.
Right.
9 times out of 10, I do now.
Right.
They'll say, "Oh, it's a F471." Well, I'll go and dig out and find out what an F471 is. Then I'll read. You know, there's been times where I've read manuals just to do a story because I want to understand what it is.
Wow.
So, you know, because I'm learning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 55 years old, but I, you know, you start to learn when you leave school. In my view, you start learning when you leave school. You know, this industry, they don't suffer fools gladly. You need to go in there and you need to show them that you know what they're talking about, because it's respectful. It's absolutely respectful. You know, we will always wear show day blacks.
Yep.
When we go on site, we will always abide by the site rules. We'll abide by production manager rules. First thing we do is we go in and sit down with the production manager and say, right, this is what we want to do. Well, we send an email saying in advance what we want to do. We'll meet up with them and say, this is what we want to do. We want to interview these people, but we'll work around work, food, sleep. We'll work around these people. You know, we won't be on the floor for sound check. You want us out, we will go without question. We always say that you won't actually see us here. You won't know we're here. We're the blacks. We'll do everything by the book. And to me, that's simple respect.
Yep.
Respect for these people. Respect for this industry, because I'm lucky enough to be part of this industry. The other thing this has done for me has absolutely ruined my enjoyment of going to see a show.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Ruined it. Because I will go and watch a show now, and I won't watch what's going on stage. I'm looking up in the rig.
Yep.
Well, what's that? Is that a Sharpie? Is that something? Or I'm looking at, well, how did that work? Or, oh, look at that hang. Is that, what's that? You know,
right.
Is that Claire's? You know, ruined it. Absolutely ruined going to a concert for me now.
Why? Let me ask.
You know, because you can't enjoy it.
Yeah, I know, man. I know. And wow. And then you see someone, you're like, wait, maybe I should get that person on the show.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you do. You think like that. I mean, it's important to me we interview and photograph everyone. We interview the caterers. We talk to the caterers. We interview, you know, absolutely everybody. And in the feature, we list everybody. A whole crew is listed in the feature in a roll call at the back.
Yep. I saw that.
Because, you know, you're right. These people are behind the scenes. But if they weren't there, there wouldn't be anything for you to go. You know, people go to a concert for 2 hours, very similar to some artists in this world. They think the stage just popped up 20 minutes before they turned up.
Yeah. Yep.
They just think the sound was there.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
They don't realize. And another thing that's very important to me for the magazine, which we've touched on and we're developing more, and we've noticed a lot on Facebook is, and this needs to be addressed personally, the mental health issues out there. Mm-hmm. The well-being. I know you did one. Your last podcast was about well-being, and I'm a real believer in that. You got to look after your brothers and sisters.
Yep.
You know, and what we can do is associate ourselves with like Over the Bridge people who address mental health. Mm-hmm. You know, look at mental health. We've got a feature coming up soon that we've actually sat down with a depression counsellor on how to how to ease depression, how to know the signs of it individually, and if a friend has it. You know, we've lost a lot of people this year, some naturally, some not naturally, and it's a tough gig out there, and I think you need to make sure that you're fit and healthy mentally and physically.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the magazine's always tried to do that, to come up with things to say, look out for each other, or, you know, check out what your lifestyle is. Just keep going.
Yep.
But remember, you're not indestructible. It's not the Wild West 80s anymore.
Yeah.
You know, we're all getting older.
Yep. Well, you're not indestructible, and you're not alone.
No, well, that is very important. You're not alone. I mean, I suffer a lot from depression, and But then if you looked in my wardrobe and saw all the flares and corduroy I have, you'd be as well. So, but I'm desperately hanging on that corduroy is going to come back someday.
It all comes back around at some point, man.
I'll tell you, if flares are getting dusty, it's got to come back to fashion soon, Larry.
Hey,
I got
man.
flares more than the flares.
Is the Justin Bieber issue the last one? Is that the most current right now?
That was the most current, and unfortunately, that was a number of months ago. So, unfortunately, because the costs involved of getting it out, and I self-fund it.
Right.
I mean, people have said to me, "Well, charge for it." There is no way I'm going to charge a brother and sister.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I will do is charge for my magazine, because it's against everything we started it, I started it.
Exactly.
Absolutely, would I not charge? We talked about going out on GoFund. No, I'm not going to ask people to support my dream,
Yeah.
Hopefully it will eventually, the advertisers will come on board. Maybe they won't, maybe they will. But as long as I've got a breath in me and a couple of quid in the bank, I will get an issue out every month.
Yeah.
If I do that on my own, I will get an issue out every month, because it's what I love. It's what I'm passionate about.
Yep.
And from the reaction we've had, I think people like it, Larry. I think we've got thousands of readers. We've got 6,000 Facebook followers.
Yep.
I think people are supporting, and I must say the industry has been incredibly supportive to it. They've allowed us into their shows, which is a great thing for them to do. They've allowed us into their shows. We've covered big shows. We've got big shows coming up. So massive respect to everybody, production manager, LDs, monitor guys, every single person that's on that tour, I have the utmost respect for.
Yep.
Because they are allowing me to follow a dream.
It's humbling, right?
Oh God, yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
I'm in the same boat, man. I've gotten to go see shows from the most amazing vantage points. On stage next to the monitor guy, standing next to Robert Scoville. Whatever it is. Yeah. And you're in their home. Like you, I do a lot of my interviews in the back of a bus. You're in their home, and it doesn't take much to quickly realize how much they've opened their world to you and how humbling that is. And B,
it is hugely.
You just have to be nice. You just have to show them a modicum of respect and gratitude, and you will go places in life and in the industry.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. And I think it's, this old cliche of treat people how you expect to be treated. If I'm allowed through the back door to a show, to me, that is a privilege.
Yeah.
And that is a privilege that needs to be honored and respected.
Yeah.
And that's why we always make sure that when we interview people, they get to see the piece before it goes anywhere near being published. I will never, ever publish a piece unless somebody has checked it first. The person I interviewed has checked it. They're happy with what I've said. They're happy from a technical point. They're happy from the quotes.
Yeah.
Once everybody's signed it off, it goes. If they don't sign it off, they won't do it. Another rule we have, and we've only brought it in once, and I'm not going to mention any names, but we covered a tour, and it was evident the crew were getting screwed on that tour. There were lots of back-to-backs. It was an unpleasant tour. And we covered it, but I never published it. And I bumped into one of the guys on another tour a few months later, and he said, when's the piece coming out? And I said, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not publishing it. And he said, why? And I said, look, the crew were getting screwed. And I can't write about a production saying, it was this and it was that and it was great, when evidently it wasn't.
Right.
When the guys and girls were getting screwed, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say, this was a great production. Because, yes, it may have been great production, but it was costing people an awful lot, health-wise, stress, to put it on. It wasn't a happy tour.
Yeah.
You could see it wasn't a happy tour, and they all agreed it wasn't a happy tour. Therefore, I will never publish a tour that's an unhappy tour. What's the point?
Yep.
It's an insult to the boys and girls that read us.
Yep.
So it's just simple rules I run by. And, basically the magazine is produced in a small flat in Southampton.
For now.
Yeah, for now.
So what's coming up for the magazine? Because I think when we talked a little bit ago, you had some stuff you wanted to sort of announce or let know. What are your plans for the future?
Right. Yeah, we did want some stuff to announce. I mean, basically what happened was it got to the point again where I just thought, I can't do this. It's costing me so much, which is why, unfortunately, we haven't been out for a while, because it costs, and not a lot, but it costs enough for me not to have it each month to get out. So I basically just cashed my pension in to be able to carry on with the magazine, which is why we're coming back, because I've cashed my pension in to do it.
Wow.
And the house has been mortgaged to do it as well, because I believe in it.
Yeah.
But at one stage, actually, a big publishing company in the UK were thinking of buying us out, which would have been great. But and that's one of the things I wanted to announce, that we were going to go into bed with them. But when it came down to the final discussions, they wanted to change the direction of the magazine. They wanted this, they wanted that, and it went against what my vision was when I started it. So I pulled out of the deal.
Wow.
Yeah, my wife said something very similar. Not well, though. I had to look up in the dictionary, and unfortunately, I can inform you she hasn't got past the letter F in the dictionary.
Interesting. I wonder if your wife and my wife have talked recently.
Yeah. Well, I'm married. This is my 4th marriage I'm on now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've married a Russian girl. So that's the secret to the perfect marriage, Larry. Marry somebody whose language you don't know and make no attempts to learn it. She shouts at me, I just look at her and say, "That's lovely. I'll have a milk, no sugar, and have we got any biscuits?"
Right. So I know
what you said.
I know your first marriage broke up out of rehab. So does that mean you've had 3 marriages since you started loading?
No. My third marriage broke out of rehab.
Your third marriage? Wow. You were
a
busy guy up until 40.
I'm just addicted to wedding cake. Next time I'm going to go up to a woman I've hated for 7 years and just give her my house. It'll be easier. Be a lot cheaper.
Oh man! Listen, I got to ask you. At the back of the magazine is an awesome section called Tour Writers. Is that stuff real? Is that no?
Some of it is, and some of it isn't.
Okay.
Some of it is, and some of it isn't.
Okay.
We do in the new issue, we've done a new thing called "Can I Plug My Kettle In?"
Okay.
Where we've asked certain people 15 questions, quick fire questions, and they have a minute to answer all 15 questions on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Things like your nickname when you were at school.
Yeah.
What's the strangest thing an artist has asked you? All of that is true, and we have Big Mix done one for us. Some others have done them for us. So when they come out, they will be true. I mean, the thing is, while we're a trade magazine, I kind of like to think we're an information / entertainment magazine.
Yep. I can see that.
And therefore, we can't be compared to TPI, LSI, LSA, because they are technical and they do a great job.
Mm-hmm.
I don't read them myself because I find them very dry. And I think they're more towards the industry, and that's understandable. They've got overheads. They're big companies. They've got big budgets to play with.
Yeah.
Every show I go to, I fund myself to go to that show, whether it be in Europe or whether it be here. And it's a passion and a love for the business that I do it, and I love it. I love being part of this. I feel at home with these people, and through this tour director and others who have taken a shine to me, I'm learning the trade. I'm learning to get into the trade, and I would love to go full time into the trade, but I would never give up the magazine.
Sure.
Do
you go to any trade shows? Do you go to NAMM or anything like that?
No, well, I've done a couple, but I think I'm planning to go to NAMM next year.
Okay.
But no, not really, because again, when we will do a gear piece review, but we'll only do one. Yeah. I only do an in-depth. We call it Under the Bonnet, as you probably see.
Yeah.
We will do an in-depth piece about one piece of equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're in the industry, you'll know about the new equipment. You probably consulted on it. Why do you want to read about something you consulted on?
Right.
Your suppliers should be coming to you. You shouldn't have to read about a new product in a magazine.
Yep.
And so we'll target something like the PRG rigs, the lighting thing. The automatic lighting things, I can't remember what they call them now, the Best Boys. When they came out, the follow spot things they brought out last year, that was a groundbreaking piece of industry, and we did a massive in-depth piece on that. We got blueprints, we got all the technical spec, We just, in the Bieber one, we looked at the SD12. That was coming out.
Yep.
That was a new piece. A lot of people were buzzing about it. We did a one-off in-depth interview about that. We looked at the Cyclone. Anything that's new and groundbreaking, we'll have a look at. But we're not going to put pages and pages of gear reviews in there, because that's not what we're about. We're about, entertainment, informative. My greatest goal would be for somebody to read something in loading, turn to their buddy on the bus and say, bloody hell, did you see what he's just said? He's really criticised this part of the industry, which needed to be criticised, but nobody can because it's their job.
Yeah.
I want us to, I've always said we're the punks on the block. When I started this, I got a book on the rules of publishing. I burnt it straight away. There are no rules.
Yep.
I am going to do what I want, how I want, to how I feel it needs to be done. I have guidance and support from the industry, and I work very closely with them, and I listen to them. I listen to all of them. I sat and had a chat with Big Mick a few weeks ago. That was an honor. That was a privilege.
Yep.
To sit with Big Mick,
Yep.
And we had a laugh. We have the last interview with Dave Shirt, the sound guy from Avenged Sevenfold and Slayer. We chatted to him. He didn't want to talk. We eventually persuaded him to talk, couldn't stop him at the end.
Right.
And we have that. Now, I played that tape back the other day, and I got emotional.
Yeah.
I got really emotional.
Yeah.
We were with him in January. 3 months later, he's passed away.
Wow.
And, I've thought about releasing that sound clip, but I think it's too raw.
Mm-hmm.
I know at NAMM you're chairing a thing about security. We want to do a big piece on security, and I've talked to security guys out there. But to be honest with you, it's too soon. Maybe beginning of next year will be the right time.
Yeah.
But with the Bataclan, with Manchester, with the Country Festival, yes, it needs to be addressed. It needs to be looked at, but it's too soon.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Robert Scoville. We've got some fantastic crew photographs and lycro photographs from Tom Petty.
Mm-hmm.
And we were going to do a Tom Petty piece.
Yep.
I don't think that's appropriate now because of the passing of Tom. But what we will do in the new issue is there will be an obituary to Tom, plus we will put all the crew photographs in there.
Yep.
But it's not appropriate to do a crew piece because they're hurting. They're raw.
Absolutely.
They're hurting. And the last thing they want, one of our competitors did a piece on Lincoln Park in the UK a few weeks after Chester had died. Personally, my own personal view, Larry, bad taste.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
I would not have run a crew story after Chester had died. I would have stopped it.
Yeah.
But hey, they run their magazine and I run mine. They make money, I don't. So who's got it right?
Well, that's debatable. Same thing, man. I was very fortunate. You mentioned Tom Petty to have 3 of his crew members on the show, and I met several others. After the last show that I went to, I reached out to some of those other folks, particularly because they were younger, and I wanted to get a younger perspective of being on the road and whatnot. And then, unfortunately, Tom passed away, and I haven't followed back up with those people because same thing. No. I want to respect and honor their time and what they're dealing with right now. And we'll circle back, but it's
if it's to happen, it's to happen. The family vibe through this industry is big.
It's crazy.
I was fortunate enough to see Tom recently, and then that to happen. Damn the Torpedoes. That album is responsible for a lot of my misspent youth. That album,
sure.
The same as Bad Company is responsible for an awful lot of my misspent youth, which I congratulate them for. And at the end of the day, every single person on the tour bus is a human being.
Yep.
And the sense of family on the road is so strong. So when your employer dies or passes away in such tragic circumstances and such young, you will have to treat it like a member of the family because it is. You're going to have to go through the 5 stages of grief. You're going to have to go through the year of anniversaries before you can get back on your feet.
That's right.
The last thing you want to do is open up a magazine and read about a tour that isn't going to happen again.
Yeah, right.
About people,
right.
Hey, maybe I've got it wrong, brother. Maybe I've got it wrong. I don't know. I just think it's...
I agree. I fully agree, man.
I think, we're all human beings.
Yep.
And you got to respect that out there,
No.
But there are things there. The security issues need to be resolved, and some of them can't say it because it's their job. At the end of the day, I don't care what I say. I've been married 4 times.
Yeah.
I've gone past caring.
You've said it all at this point. Richard, man.
Oh, God, man.
Listen, man, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I know it's later over there, and
That's fine.
you're doing an awesome thing. I feel like you're a brothers in arms out there, doing what you're doing and what I'm doing, and I wish you all the best. And I thank you so much for coming on, and I thank you for setting the bar high for people like me that are about a year behind you that clearly have a mark to hit now. And I just thank you so much, man. Thank you for sharing.
Well, I
your story.
appreciate that. It's very kind words, and I hope this has been some use to you. And really, there's not much of a story. I just offering a service to people I respect, and hopefully, the magazine will survive. And I really would like, to say to anyone out there, if you on the road, if you want to contribute, please do. Absolutely, please do. It's your magazine, and we can't go on without your voice.
What's the best way to get a hold of you?
They can email me. They can go via the website, or they can email me directly at richard@load-in-international.com.
Awesome.
And the international, there's no gap between it. It's in and then straight into international.com.
Okay.
Or they can contact me through you, Larry.
Okay.
That's whatever. But I really appreciate you showing interest in having a chat. It's been fantastic.
Absolutely. Good, man. Good.
All right, brother.
Richard Bennett, man, you are a rock star, my friend. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for keeping the good fight up. I love you, dude. Stay tuned next week, my friends. It is going to be 2018 when this baby comes out. Episode number 79 with Lauren Crowley is on its way. Don't forget, you can follow us at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube, all as Roadie Free Radio. Check out the website for a ton of information at roadiefreeradio.com. Send me a note. I want to hear from you. That's info@roadiefreeradio.com. And in the meantime, my friends, Merry Christmas. Y'all be safe out there.
No roadies, no rock and roll.